you know that Farsi is one of the most blogged languages online? Fortunately, you don't have to read Farsi to be able to access Persepolis and Marjane Satrapi's wonderful body of work, which has been translated into many languages. Today, this is A Voice Coach Reacts to Persepolis and Marjane Satrapi. Now, you may well be asking, what does a voice coach have to do with graphic novel analysis, specifically Persepolis? Well, this story is a wonderful expression of a woman's voice. And women's voices manifest in many different ways. And so as a voice coach, I'm S.J. Harrison, voice and performance coach. I really look at the whole voice in many of my reaction videos. So it's not just about voice production and excellent presentation. It's also about message and about our why. And what I found in many interviews with Marjane Satrapi is that she really talks about her why in a very powerful and direct way. She also talks about why the graphic novel. That what I've discovered through the several times that I've read Persepolis is the power of graphics with sparse text. There's something extremely direct and personal, and we will get into this right now. But before we do so, I just want to alert you to my free guide, which you will find below this video, to empower your voice. And also below this text, I will be referencing this entire pile of books here as resources, because over the years of my reading and finding out more about Iran, these books have been really valuable to me, and so I share that also below. But now let's have a look at one of the interviews that I was investigating on Marjane Satrapi.
Well, listen, for me, who loves to draw and who loves to write and cannot choose between one or the other, the comic is the best form. And also, I'm a little bit shy, to talk, like I was very sad, or, to describe, when I have when I'm too sentimental, I'm too shy to describe them, but I can make a drawing of myself and it showed. In words, it becomes too much for me. I cannot do it.
Now, I think that many of you can probably relate to feeling shy when speaking, or feeling shy when talking about experiences that you've had, and certainly feeling shy in front of an audience, in front of a camera. Well, the writer is presenting to a very large audience. And so sometimes to talk about one's feelings in words is to compress them and define them. There's something about the graphic novel and about visuals in general that really open up the experience to the audience. And so now I'm going to do a rather strange segue, which is to public speaking. I am inviting you to think when you're presenting about how you can use image in a way that really invites the audience into your concept, into your intellect, into your experience, and allows them to draw their own conclusions. This can sometimes free you up from the defining power of words. Sometimes putting everything we feel into words is really not possible. Pretty stubborn girl, huh? Where do you suppose she gets that? Sometimes it scares me how blunt she is. It'll help her later on. You'll see.
In our world, and here we are at a news program, we see Iran in the daily news all the time. We don't see that history, I guess, or culture that you lived and write about.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Iran is reduced, to veil and beard and nuclear weapon. And nobody...
Veil and beard and nuclear weapons.
Yes. And nobody talks about our great poets and our great philosopher and our thousands of years of history and culture.
I can imagine that there are many people in many countries all around the world who can absolutely relate to the feeling of having your culture and your country boiled down to a few slogans. And some of these slogans can be really full of propaganda. This was very interesting to me to hear her say it, and also in terms of diving into the material, because she's only 2 years older than me. And so I was growing up at the exact same time as her, and I was hearing, because at that particular time as a teenager I was living in the US, I was hearing in the 80s hugely problematic slogans like Axis of Evil and the Evil Empire. And this really helped me to connect with her because, like her family, my family recognized that as propaganda. So in Persepolis, you see the different messages that she as a child is getting. So there's the message she's getting from her parents, friends of family, their experience, and then there's the changing messages, depending on how the politics are changing and who's in power, that the child is getting at school.
As for me, I love the king. He was chosen by God. Who told you that? My teacher and God himself. Come, sit on my lap. I'll try to explain it to you. Good. Explain everything. I'm going to bed. God did not choose the king. He did so. It's written on the first page of our school book. That's what they say.
And so as a child, she starts off with a lot of confusion about that. And we see her developing her own voice. That's what I see in Persepolis. So in terms of this being relatable to me, I also came from a family who was questioning the way that the news was reported and criticizing the propaganda. Very different kind of situation. Not having war, but having the Cold War and trying to peer through the veil of propaganda. So again, one thing I want to say about the book is Persepolis is referred to as the story of a childhood. So we really need to remember this as we're hearing her talk about it, and we really understand it when we're reading the graphic novel and connecting to the material so personally through the eyes of a child. You can just imagine being that child, right? And walking in that child's shoes, because we all remember what it was like to be a child, hopefully, or at least we can imagine how it would be to be hearing all of these different things and to have these big events happening. And so from that to developing her own voice. And why does she say the story of a childhood? She could have said the story of an Iranian childhood, the story of a Persian childhood. She doesn't say that. And it becomes very clear in these interviews why. Because she is looking to the universal. And for us to understand this is a child, this is a personal story. So through the personal, connecting with people from many different experiences and walks of life.
If we talk about the news program, the difficulty, the problem, when we did reduce people to, or a country to a notion, then they become abstract. And from the second they stop being human beings, then we can go and bomb them and kill them. And this is not a problem.
This is this famous Italian writer that, of course, I don't remember his name, who said that for him, writing was the only way to talk without being interrupted. And probably that was my goal of writing Persepolis. That was to be able to write it, the book, to write it and to tell the story once and forever.
So she goes on to say here that she is not a historian or a political analyst, but that she's simply speaking from her own experience. And I think that we can never go wrong when we speak from our own experience. So for those of you out there who are questioning, is my story valid? Who'll want to listen to me? And do I have a right to tell it? Well, I think if it's your story, how could you have a more authentic voice than telling what you felt, what you observed, and what happened to you? And so this should be an encouragement to you when it comes to sharing something personal of yourself within what's appropriate to the format in any kind of speech or presentation. Those are the moments that people remember, and those are the moments where people can really, really connect to you, as we connect to Marjane Satrapi through her work.
I am born in a certain place at a certain time, and I have seen things. And I can have doubt about whatever. Something I don't have any doubt about is about what I saw with my own eyes. So it happened that I saw a revolution, it happened that I saw a war, and then I wanted to tell the story.
So I would just ask you here, what have you seen? What have you experienced? What is the story that you would like to tell in whatever format you find yourself in?
So I had to really choose a few moments that really could make this bridge between the two cultures. Actually, not so much the differences of the cultures, but the resemblance between the two cultures. And that is what I think that is the importance of the anecdote in the story. That means when you say the story of a whole nation is an abstract notion. It doesn't mean anything. But I tried to take the moment of life that anybody could relate to in order to make them understand the most possible.
So what are the elements of powerful voice? I think there's many, many elements. And of course, I've been talking particularly about women's voices, but this applies to anybody. We don't just use the words we say, we use how we tell it physically, we use our voices, we also can use image, we also can use anecdote. So think about these things in terms of your own voice. And your voice could be presentation, it could be written, it could be novel and fictionalized, it could be drawing. So how does your voice express yourself? And what is it that you want to express with your voice? And that can go from being a senior leader in an organization, how do you find your why in that situation? Or an artist. What is the why that motivates your sharing of yourself, which is always a very, very brave thing to do. So here's to unlocking your performance power, and I will have a list again of these as resources if you're interested in reading some of the great wealth of material that I have had a chance to read. And with that, I invite you to download my free guide, which you'll find in the text below this video, if you'd like to empower your voice. And I look forward to seeing you here next time for interviews, reactions, how-to videos on powerful public speaking and empowered voice. Here's to unlocking your performance power.